I speak to you in the name of the living God, Blessed Trinity, and lover of your souls. Excitement and anxiety, both are physiologically indistinguishable emotions. Both cause the heart to beat faster and cortisol to surge throughout the body. Both ready us for action. The distinction between them is that excitement focuses on all the ways something could go well, and anxiety focuses on all the ways something could go wrong. Mary and Salome guide us at twilight to the tomb of Jesus, wondering aloud what they might find when they arrive. Was it Mary who gasped anxiously, "Who will roll away the stone for us from the entrance to the tomb?" Or was it Salome who exclaimed, "Who will roll away the stone for us from the entrance to the tomb?" What the gospel tells us is that when the women see the stone already rolled away, they are ekthumbeomai, which either means terrified or amazed. I leave the interpretation up to you. And in fact, that's really all that I can do. The only difference between anxiety and excitement is our individual interpretations. Emotions like these are liminal. They occupy both sides of a threshold. The word liminal comes from the Latin word limen, meaning threshold. And a threshold is a physical place. It's a strip of wood or metal or stone that forms the bottom of your doorway. But it's also a phenomenon, an occurrence with an uncertain explanation or meaning. One poet calls thresholds vital crossings clothed in ritual. It's not a simple boundary. It's a frontier that divides two different territories. Tonight is the great vigil of Easter, and like any vigil, its liturgical function is to gather us in a liminal space. Tonight we stand at the threshold where death transitions to life. Will you cross it with me? Will you follow Mary, and Salome past the stone that has been rolled away and into the empty tomb with all its emotional tensions and logical questions, with its uncertain explanations and spiritual mysteries? And I wonder, are you excited or anxious at the thought? As these women approach the tomb, they model for us what it's like when we as human beings approach any threshold in our lives. What it feels like to stand at the doorway where a great complexity of emotions come alive: confusion, fear, excitement, sadness, hope. At these moments, the universe beckons to a new way of seeing and understanding the world. Was it the birth of your first kid? Or that moment you dropped to one knee with a ring in your hand? Maybe it was the moment you decided you didn't want to. When you chose to begin going to church again. Were you humming hymns at the bedside? Was it a dying parent or a sick child? Were you sharing a story of trauma with a trusted friend for the first time? Or maybe saying no to suffering and yes to therapy? These moments are thresholds When we're in a liminal space, we do not yet know what the world will look like on the other side. We may not even know what we feel as we consider what might be on the other side. We only know that we are faced with the choice to pass through. Thresholds are daunting places, perhaps because they are empty spaces, meant for passing through. Jesus' tomb was not meant to keep his body. Jesus' tomb was a threshold where he passed from death to life. So when the women arrive at the tomb of Jesus, he is not there. If Jesus had been there, the crossing of their own threshold would have been easy. Would you not leap across a chasm to embrace the one you love and thought you lost? But these women are not given the proof that their hope of his resurrection has any merit. Not yet. This is the moment that one spiritual writer calls voluntary displacement. The women are faced with the choice to leave the trance of their business as usual lives and let the threshold experience interrupt them, shock them into the reality that there might be something more than an empty tomb here. There might be something beyond this one surprising moment. Do you find yourself at a threshold this night? Might you consider voluntarily displacing yourself and taking the first step toward a new way of seeing and being in your own life? Maybe your business as usual life was shaken to the foundation during this pandemic. Were you one of many who lost a job or lost a loved one or lost your own health? All of us lost the rhythm of life as we once knew it. But as COVID vaccine counts go up and death rates go down, we are faced with a new threshold. Where will we go from here? Where will you go from here? There is no door behind you to pass back through. There is only a new threshold in front of you. And it brings with it new questions and concerns and an invitation to a new rhythm. Will you open yourself to the possibility that your heart may find a fresh song to keep its beat? There just might be an innovative dance for your soul on the other side of that door. These are the kinds of questions we wonder at in the liminal space. We want nothing more than answers to our questions. But all we get at the threshold is what Mary and Salome get: an empty tomb. The interpretation in this space is up to each one of us. Each person must pass through the threshold alone. But, as the angel said to the women at the tomb today, you do not have to be alarmed. God has not left you to cross the threshold without some good news. Yes, the tomb is empty. That's what the messenger tells the women. But do not be afraid, for you will see Jesus. He is going ahead of you. That was God's message to the women at the tomb on the first Easter, and it is still God's message for us on this Easter. Do not be afraid when you stand at the thresholds in your life. You will see Jesus. He is going ahead of you. When you find yourself anxiously checking a silent phone, awaiting a physician's call, remember, no matter what comes next, You will see Jesus. He is going ahead of you. When you sit in an empty office because business has been devastatingly slow, and you worry that the worst financial hit is yet to come, remember, no matter what comes next, you will see Jesus. He is going ahead of you. While your dry fingers grasp at the threads of an unraveling relationship, and you quickly realize you are terrified to be alone, remember, no matter what comes next, you will see Jesus. He is going ahead of you. When the angels tell us not to be afraid, I don't think their message is to change what we're feeling, but simply, perhaps, to adjust our interpretation. Might you open yourself up to the possibility that the unknown before you will bring good news too? Because no matter what threshold you find yourself standing at, whatever you are leaving, whatever you are about to enter, even though you cross it alone, you will see Jesus. He has already crossed it ahead of you. When Christ passed from death to life, he crossed the one untraversable mortal boundary, the ultimate human threshold. And now, there is no threshold Jesus can't cross ahead of you. There is only a clear path to follow into your resurrected life.